Even though being a parent is one of the most rewarding experiences in life, American moms are exhausted. If you start with moms who stay home, caretaking is a full-time job. It is so much responsibility and so much work. You hear people say things like, you don't do anything because you stay home all day, or why do you need a sitter when you stay home? Or you stay at home and that's not work. These people don't understand what it is to be a stay-at-home mom. Toddlers are a lot of work. You have to monitor them and watch them constantly because they're in constant danger. They're always trying to get into something. It could be makeup, it could be sprays, it could be lotion, it could be tight spaces, crayons on the walls. They require constant attention, and that can be exhausting. There is no break. There's no lunch break. There's no break at all. This is all day nonstop unless they're sleeping. The only time you get a break is when they're sleeping. Between meals, preparing meals, making sure that they're eating, bath time, nap time, diaper changes, potty training, playground, story time, playtime at the playground, at the pool, at the park, learning time. There is literally always something to do, and it's exhausting. And then they start school, and then you have the projects, you have the school events, you have communion, or you have pajama day, or you have a birthday party at school, or you have a Halloween party or some other party. There's always something going on. And that's just for moms who stay home. For moms who also work outside of the home, they have all of these commitments and responsibilities, plus the responsibilities of a career. Unlike jobs or other relationships, friendships, family relationships, motherhood and parenting never ends. There is no break, there is no pause. This leads to chronic fatigue. You're fatigued and then you never get a chance to fully rest, and it's just compounding into chronic fatigue. There is no system in place to support the family. If you're a working mom, you have all of these challenges and responsibilities, plus the demands of a career. And then that means that you need to find a caretaker who come to the home or send your child to daycare. And that can be an extra $1,000 to $3,000 a month, depending on where you live and the type of daycare that you choose. So that adds an additional layer of stress, motherhood plus working, plus the cost of having a caretaker. Then, as a result of COVID, we see a lot of parents, mothers, fathers working in the home. They're doing all of the responsibilities associated with having a job. So you have your work meetings, you have your goals, you have your project deadlines, and still breastfeeding and attending to a child. Both things require constant attention, and it's almost impossible to do. What adds to the fatigue and the exhaustion and the stress is the lack of systems in place to support families. For example, in the US, there is no minimum maternity leave. In other countries in Europe, you have a minimum of, let's say, up to 2 years paid leave. The mother can stay home and still receive her full compensation that she was receiving before and spend time with her child. In America, there's no such thing. There is no minimum. There is no across the board, everyone gets at least 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. You're lucky if you even get paid maternity leave. But there is no standard minimum across the board in America. If there was support like there is in countries like Finland, that would alleviate the stress and the pressure placed on the family when you have a new child. In America, there's also no minimum paid time off. So in other countries, other first world industrialized developed countries, it's not uncommon to hear someone having 8, 10, 12 weeks off a year. In America, that is just not the case. And as a mother, There are a number of reasons why you would need to call out of work. You could be sick, your child could be sick, and if so, they aren't allowed to go to daycare. So you have to find someone to watch your child when they're sick. In addition to those common situations, there's also all of the reasons where you have an event at school, you have a communion, you have a early release, you have a day off because the teachers have a training, or a show during the day, which you want to be there for your kids. In America, since there's no minimum paid time off, you're using the time that you do have to attend to your child, to do those special events, to take care of them when they're sick. That leaves little time for vacation, to rest. So that compounds, again, this chronic fatigue and this situation where parents are exhausted. Raising a child takes a village. And in countries where there are policies and programs in place to support the family, then you can use your village. In America, it's hard to use your village because they are working and they have the same constraints that you have or that the American family has. For example, in France, it's not uncommon for grandparents to watch their grandkids for, let's say, 2 weeks at a time. And there are two reasons why this is possible. Number one is the grandparents have plenty of paid time off. They have a lot of vacation time, weeks and weeks of time. So they can use 2 weeks and spend it with their grandkids. And then the parents can take time, and they have also a lot of time, weeks off, so they can take 2 weeks and rejuvenate and refresh. In America, neither the parents nor the grandparents have the time to take weeks in a row, like consecutive weeks off, to watch a child or to go on vacation. It's very rare in America that you hear someone taking multiple weeks off. There is such a work culture in America. Another thing that's not in place for every American is subsidized daycare. There are other countries where when a mother chooses to go to work, they can then send their child to a daycare or a preschool, and the government will subsidize a portion of the cost. In America, we do have policies in place, but it is limited to families within a certain income bracket. So if you make more than a certain amount, you don't qualify for those government subsidies, and that puts stress on the middle class family. So you're in a position where you're either going to pay $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month for daycare or live off of one income. How strong is a country which doesn't have policies in place to support the family? Why don't we have at least 1 year of paid maternity leave? Anyone who's ever brought home a baby knows that 6 weeks is not enough. 8 weeks is not enough. They're not even eating solid foods. They're not even sleeping through the night. It's exhausting. And then to try to add work on top of that doesn't really make sense. Why don't we have more paid time off? Why isn't 20 days a year standard? 4 weeks a year standard? Then you have time to attend to your family. You have time to vacation, recover, regroup. You have time to rest. Why isn't there a minimum? Everyone gets it. And subsidized daycare for families with a higher income bracket. Families who bring in $50, $70, $80, $100,000 a year, they still maybe can't afford to spend 20% of their income on daycare. If you think about it, if your daycare costs $2,000 a month times 12, that's $24,000. So for a family making $100,000, that's 24% of their money. That's a lot for one child. So how can we fix this system? We can start by rejecting this idea of work-life balance, this idea of we can have a family and we can have a career and we can do it all. To hear more about that, watch this video.